All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to break down a really no-nonsense framework for a successful life. And I'm not talking about wishful thinking, but a series of simple, super candid equations. This is what's called the Algebra of Happiness.
But first, let's just kick things off with a question that might just flip what you've been told your whole life. What if that classic advice, follow your passion, is actually really bad advice? Let's get into it.
So what is this algebra of happiness? Well, the whole idea comes from professor and serial entrepreneur Scott Galloway. And this isn't some academic theory cooked up in a lab. It's a collection of raw, honest observations and life equations from his time teaching thousands of students and building and selling multiple companies.
And hey, full credit where it's due. For this whole breakdown, we're leaning on an amazing, super concise summary of Galloway's book that was put together by the folks at learned.org. They're a fantastic resource for this kind of distilled wisdom.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover in the next few minutes. We'll start with the whole happiness curve of life, then get into your two single biggest decisions. We're going to debunk that follow your passion myth, run through some quick equations for a truly rich life, and wrap up with the most powerful force there is, love.
First up, let's talk about this idea of a U-shaped happiness curve. And really, the main takeaway here is simple. If you're in the thick of it right now and feeling the struggle, yeah, that's totally normal.
You know, it turns out our happiness tends to follow this pretty predictable curve. Your 20s can feel awesome, just magical, and full of new experiences. But then, the 30s and 40s hit. And that's when career stress, family stuff, and money worries all seem to peak at the exact same time. Galloway's point is, you got to embrace this. It's a phase, and things really do tend to get better as you hit your 50s and beyond.
And that leads to a pretty tough truth, especially about that early part of your career. Galloway argues that your professional path is pretty much set in those first 5 years. To get real economic security, you often have to work insanely hard. Balance isn't where you start. It's a luxury you earn by putting in that intense effort up front.
So, okay, if your early career is going to be that intense, what are the really big decisions you need to get right? Well, it turns out they're about way more than just your job title.
According to Galloway, it all boils down to two things. And listen to what's number one. It's not your job, it's who you choose as a life partner. The right partner just makes the good times better and the bad times easier. And after that, it's about investing in yourself, your education, and, this is crucial, your location.
And this brings us to a super simple formula for your economic opportunity. So why a city? Because opportunity loves density. Being in a place with a ton of talent and capital forces you to get better. And it just accelerates your growth and your earning potential way faster than anywhere else.
And what about choosing that partner? Well, the advice here is just so refreshingly simple. Don't chase after people who don't seem that into you, thinking rejection is some kind of status symbol. The fact that someone genuinely thinks you're awesome, that's a feature, not a bug. That mutual respect is the foundation for a real partnership, where 1 + 1 is way more than 2.
All right, let's circle back to that big idea we started with. It's time to really tackle the whole myth of following your passion and look at a way more practical and honestly a more effective path.
Man, this quote just cuts right through the noise, doesn't it? It is so easy to give that advice when you're already successful and wealthy. But for most of us starting out, it's just a bad strategy. Passion isn't a map you follow, it's a feeling you earn. So what do you do instead? Here's the game plan, in 3 steps. First, figure out what you're actually good at. What skills come naturally to you? Second, put in the work, the thousands of hours to become truly great at it. And then third, passion will find you. I mean, nobody's passionate about tax law on their first day. But being an amazing tax lawyer who people respect and rely on, that brings security and opportunity, and that's what you become passionate about. Okay, let's shift gears. We're going to do a little rapid-fire round now with some of Galloway's core equations for building a rich life. These are really simple formulas to help you think about your money and your well-being. First up, experiences are greater than things. It's so true. We always think some new gadget or car will make us happy, but that feeling fades. We totally underestimate the joy we get from experiences, which actually grow in value as memories. The bottom line? Drive a boring car so you can have an amazing vacation. It's that simple.
Next up, success equals your resilience divided by your failure. Look, failure is a constant. Everybody fails. The one thing that determines who succeeds isn't avoiding failure. It's how fast you bounce back. How fast can you learn the lesson and get back in the arena? That ability, that's resilience.
Okay, so what does rich even mean? Because it's not about a huge salary. Here's a super clear definition.
You are rich when your passive income, so the money your assets make while you sleep, is more than your monthly expenses. That's it. That's the finish line for true financial freedom.
I absolutely love this one. It's such a great gut check for all of us. Just ask yourself, are you spending more time actually sweating, creating things, building a business, working out? Or are you watching other people sweat on Netflix, on social media? That ratio, that's a huge clue to where you're headed.
All right, we've saved the most important part for last. After all the talk about careers and money and success, it all comes down to this: the compounding power of love. This is truly the ultimate investment.
Just think about it for a second. The most powerful force in the financial universe, right? Compound interest. Well, it works exactly the same way with people. Those small, consistent investments, sending a text to a friend, giving a real compliment, just telling someone you love them, they don't just add up, they compound, creating these huge dividends of trust and support and joy over your lifetime.
And that's really what it all boils down to. At the end of the day, after all the equations are solved and the career ladders are climbed, this is the final answer. The quality of your relationships. That's the real measure of a rich and meaningful life.
So I want to leave you with a question. And not just a think about it question, but a do it question. What is one small, simple investment you can make in a key relationship in your life right now, today?
So, if this way of thinking resonates with you, you should know there is a whole universe of this kind of wisdom out there. You can find more incredible summaries on everything from business and leadership to psychology and stoicism over at learned.org, which, as we mentioned, was the source for this whole breakdown. Thanks so much for tuning in.